The best starting build for Obsidian's new action RPG Avowed has to be without a doubt the Gun Mage, a build which combines the insanely overpowered two-handed arquebus or musket weapon with some extremely powerful spells to obliterate anything you come across and turn the game on to easy mode no matter the selected difficulty. In this video we'll go over everything you need to know to sling spells and bullets like a pro, so stick around. Timestamps as always will be provided below if you want to skip or rewatch a section, and let's jump right into it. So why should you play a Gun Mage in Avowed? Well, other than it being probably the most impressive combination of weapons possible in the game, I mean, what's better than slinging iron and magic at the same time? It is without a doubt the best in terms of raw damage as well. Initially, that's due to the attack damage bestowed onto the arquebus or the musket style of weapons in this game. When compared to most early weapons, whether it's melee or ranged, you can see the two-handed arquebus almost always comes out on top. Here's some other weapons for comparison of the same quality, which you can see do much less damage as well as less stun potential overall, meaning that the musket is the best early weapon in the game by far. And it's not just the damage, of course, but also the stun buildup, as I mentioned, which is especially important when we get to bosses, because executing a full stun allows you to deal a unique charged attack that does even more massive damage. Range is also a key component of the Gun Mage build, as your musket can outrange most other weapons and even spells in the game, allowing you to eliminate targets from stealth and before they can even reach you, while also unleashing a barrage of area control and elemental magic from your spellbook to finish off a fight if necessary. And as I mentioned, the mage side of the build is also extremely versatile and fun to play, as you ignite packs of enemies on fire or electrocute and even freeze them in place to eventually shatter them with a high damage and well-placed rifle round. As you level up, you can progressively unlock better and more powerful grimoires, which are essentially your spellbook in Avowed, unlocking better and more powerful spells along the way that do massive AoE damage and can easily destroy everything that your guns don't pick off from range. So all in all, the Gun Mage is just one of the best balanced and definitely most fun ways to play in Avowed. But let's talk gear next and how to get started with this powerful playstyle. Now, obviously, you want to pick up that arquebus as soon as you can, and luckily for me, I was able to find one in the starting shantytown right after you leave the harbor in the first zone of Dawnshore. Now, I don't know if this treasure chest will always be the same for everyone, but even if you don't find this weapon here, you can typically find it very early from either random enemies or chests, or it can be sold by merchants as well, so it's really not that hard to get one. Now, even a common variety of the arquebus is strong, but I do still recommend that you upgrade it as soon as possible to really push its damage and its stun potential over the top. All of your resource upgrade materials, which for guns includes softwood branches and paradisen ladder, should be saved and put towards upgrading this weapon as soon as possible. You can say here that the physical damage upgrades significantly with each improvement, but the stun also has a massive uptick in going from common to fine quality, so your priority in that first zone should be doing that as soon as possible. Get it upgraded and you'll notice a huge difference. So this musket will last you well through the first zone in the game and through the second one too, where you can find a unique arquebus called One Last Trick. This one does some splash damage, plus has a bonus 20% reload speed, so you'll want to switch over to this as soon as you're able to complete its side quest, which is called Steel Resolve, and has to do with finding an assassin hidden among the local Rangers faction in Emerald Stair. But the great thing about Avowed is that you can also weapon swap, which gives this build even more options, and that's where the mage playstyle can really mix things up and make this build interesting. That's where we get to the other main weapon on the Gun Mage build, which is the Grimoire. Grimoires in Avowed function as your basic spellbook, letting you cast certain spells, but the great thing about them is that not only do they save you skill points that you would have had to spend otherwise to cast those abilities, but they also significantly reduce the cost and the skill cooldown. So grimoires are basically essential on any type of mage, including the Gun Mage setup here, and you also want to upgrade your grimoire as soon as possible because the cost reduction and cooldown reduction also greatly increase with just a few levels of upgrades. Now you want to start with a common grimoire of the elements first. This gives you access to 3 basic elemental spells for fire, ice, and shock, plus a 4th defensive spell called Arcane Veil, which is also very useful. These skills are great to start with, but they do get much improved once you find a greater elemental grimoire that's going to improve all 3 of those elemental spell types to make them stronger, give them greater range and AoE potential, plus it gives you another ice defensive spell as well. So I would pick this up as soon as possible as it's the next level up from the basic version. But you may be wondering what weapon works best when paired with a grimoire in the other hand, and for the gun mage, you really have two options here, either a wand or a pistol. This is because we want to be fighting at maximum range due to running light armor for greater cost reduction instead of melee defenses, more about armor in a little bit. But my favorite option to run side by side with the grimoire build is definitely the pistol. This also fits that gun mage theme, and though the pistol is going to do less damage overall than the arquebus does, it has the advantage of faster reloading time. So this can be a great finishing weapon for you to quickly pick off enemies who only have a little bit of health left with a few quick headshots. So if you like the pistol playstyle, I highly recommend you pick up a powerful, unique pistol option in the first zone. It's called Kairok's Pride. This is honestly a perfect fit for the gun mage build because this unique pistol is infused with lightning magic. It does bonus shock damage, and with your upgrade, has a chance to spawn extra shock projectiles that can bounce between surviving enemies on kill, turning one kill into multiples. So again, it is the perfect finisher weapon. To get this item, you'll need to defeat a group of smugglers close to the starting harbor where you land in Dawn Shore. This does include a boss fight, by the way, which can be difficult. So you may need to get a few more levels before you knock this one out, but it's definitely well worth it. Also, the shock round on this pistol can be used to trigger shock plates in the environment, which are commonly used in solving puzzles, which require opening doors, so that's another nice benefit here. Don't forget to upgrade this at the enchanting station back at your camp. Again, my preferred enchantment is the Storm version, which gives you a 25% chance to summon that crackling bolt projectile to bounce between nearby enemies. Now, in terms of armor, your best bet for this particular build is going to be to focus on light armor. Due to how armor passives work in this game, light armor gives you the highest amount of essence and stamina to work with on your build, but at a trade-off of less armor, at least initially. That's because all armor types in Avowed can be upgraded eventually with tons of passive armor, so this isn't really something that you need to worry about in my opinion. It seems to make the most difference at the beginning of the game, where if you wear something like heavy armor, yes, you'll take less damage, but you'll also have much less essence and stamina, so it's actually more difficult to play this build in heavy armor. Plus, with our skills as well as Kai as our starting companion to tank enemies, taking damage in Avowed on this build really isn't a problem. But pretty early on, you should be able to get a fantastic, unique chess piece called the Arcanist Gambian. This is part of the Arcanist set. And you can find this in the Dawn Shore zone by clearing out the Yellow Band Bandit Camp. This is a bit difficult, so again, you might need a few levels here to be successful. Make sure to use food buffs as well to make the fight easier. But I love this early on because it boosts your AoE damage by 20%. And this is going to apply to basically all of our Grimoire skills once you have the greater elemental grimoire equipped. For boots, you could grab the Arcanist boots as well, even early at the start of the game by climbing the lighthouse next to the harbor. Once you reach the top, you'll find those. This does give bonus movement speed as well as a buff to healing, so it's a nice combination. For gloves, there are many options. Early on, you can purchase the Wayfarer's gloves at the Harbor Merchant. Those give you bonus fire damage on power attacks, so that's pretty nice. Though there are other options like the Vam braces, for example, which boost your stun potential by 15%, great for bosses, or the Engwithian gloves, not sure if I'm saying that right. These provide a massive 20% critical damage boost. But all these items can basically be found within the first two zones of the game, so no advanced gear is really required to make this build work well. So now that we've covered gear, let's talk about skills on the Gun Mage next. We're going to pull a variety of skills from all three classes on this build, but the focus will definitely be on the Ranger tree. So you start by picking up Tanglefoot. This skill is great because it roots enemies in place for several seconds. It's quick to cast, and it can capture multiple enemies at once, rewarding good skill placement. The skill does have some decent upgrades, which can deal poison damage and increase duration, but I haven't really found a need for them, at least on normal difficulty. Plus, if you use Marius as a companion, he can use the same skill as well, so I would just keep this one at base level. Now, next up, you want to max out the Steady Aim passive. This skill slows down time while you aim down sights, so it's especially good at letting you quickly execute targets with precise aim before they can even get close to you. Keep in mind that by aiming for enemy weak points, you also turn any hit into a critical attack, making it deal much more damage. After that, you should invest into marksmanship for the extra damage while using guns and bows. then eventually work towards unlocking the Quick Switch passive. This one is going to let you swap weapons faster, so you can transition between those two weapon sets, the musket and your spell and pistol loadout, pretty easily. And then at rank 2, this automatically reloads your gun after switching weapons for 3 seconds, meaning you can fire a shot, let's say, on your arquebus, immediately switch to your spell book, and then when you come back to that weapon, you'll be automatically reloaded, ready to fire again. Really nice combination there. In terms of wizard skills, you basically just want to get that Grimoire Mastery skill up as many ranks as you need to use the spell book that you want. Investing into individual spells here will also make those more effective if you find, certain spells that you really like. But also don't skip over on the warrior class tree, because you can get some especially strong passives here early on for survival, including the toughness passive for even more maximum health, as well as constant recovery for some passive healing after taking damage. And if you max this one out, you literally never have to heal again, so it can be quite powerful. Before I forget, in terms of attributes, I think the clear winner for this build is going to be Dexterity. This is because Dex in Avowed gives you faster reload speeds of weapons, so that's going to affect your arquebus and your pistol, obviously. And once you get, close to about 10 Dexterity or so, you should notice a huge difference in your ability to quickly reload those weapons to fire off that next attack. After pumping up Dexterity, I would make sure to put points into Might next. Yes, you can also train with Kai to get an additional 2 points of Might here, and overall Might increases your damage for all attacks, so it's just a straight damage boost. Make sure you put points here as well. Intellect, of course, is going to be good for helping you get some more essence for the mage side of things with this build, so if you have any extra points, feel free to place them there as well. And in terms of just, combat tips or how I play this build, usually what I like to do is pick off the weakest targets in a pack from range. Usually you can, eliminate at least 2 or 3 with those slowed down, aimed shots before the rest of enemies even become aware of your presence. For bigger enemies and bosses, make sure to use Kai or your bear pet to tank those for you while you get in those weak spot hits or headshots to build up stuns. And once the target is fully stunned, don't forget you can then execute that special attack against them for massive damage. This one doesn't have to be aimed, and it also seems to slow down time a bit, so it's very good against bosses. While Kai or other companions are distracting your enemies, that's also going to be the perfect time to use your spells to deal a lot of area effect damage and eliminate groups. You can lock more enemies in place if you need to, just to make sure they get hit by those elemental spells as well, or just stop them from attacking you using the Tanglefoot ability. And finally, don't forget to use your pistol for quick finishers against enemies that are low health, as this has even faster reload than your musket, and if you're using the Kadrox pistol, that has the bonus shock damage as well. But with all that said, that's going to wrap up our Gun Mage build for Avowed. If you found this helpful, do me a huge favor and crush that like button so YouTube knows to share this video with others. That is much appreciated. If you'd like more info on how the build works, including alternate gear, skill order, and a lot more, we do have that in a written guide linked down below, so make sure to check that out as well. And as always, thanks for watching. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.